You voted for it, I've built it. The SM.79 Savoia from AIRFIX in 1/72 scale, a vintage classic. Find out more right here on Gary's Stuff. Hi there, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. So today, indeed, I am building this vintage classic kit, the Savoia Marchetti SM.79 Savoia in 1/72 scale from AIRFIX. It's a tooling that was released in 1967. It's been used. I think this is the 4th time it's been run. So, you might expect a few problems. You'll see how I went on in just a moment. If you enjoy the video, please remember, Imperial thumbs up on the like button below. Every like counts. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. You'll be notified of all my future videos and be able to catch up on all my past ones, including the box opening for this kit and the history with the history of the aircraft and the history of the kit. Those two are already available online. If, of course, you want to support the channel in any way, you can do that through Super Thanks, through becoming a channel member, or indeed through any of my online partner programs, which, of course, links to the AIRFIX affiliate program as well. You can check out all about that through the link in the information box below. So let's get on and make this wonderful Savoia Marchetti SM.79 in 1/72 from AIRFIX. Right, the first thing I'm going to do with our Savoia is attend to the crew figures. Now, these are really old figures. I'll zoom in a bit more and I'll show you what I mean. This is pretty much what the pilot and co-pilot look like. Just taken off the frame. As you can see, I haven't sanded it down here. But you can see there's this massive moulding flash here. And just the whole modeling of it is pretty atrocious. So what I've done so far, and what I'll do with this one, is I've just got rid of the molding flash here, opened up this bit between his arm and the thigh. I just used actually junior hacksaw blades to get most of that done, and then used the craft knife to clean it up. For this bit in here, I've essentially just used a craft knife to sort of dig that hole out a bit more, and likewise to sort of create more of a bit of shape here. Just use what's already there as a basis, but then just sort of broaden it out a bit and round off some of the edges. Here I just removed just a little bit of material here to give a bit more highlight to where his hand is, and yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what it used to look like. So yeah, so yeah, this stuff down here, that all needs to be cleaned up to get that separation of the legs. Again, you can use a hacksaw, junior hacksaw, or something like that, or a very thin blade saw to cut into there, and then just finish it off with a craft knife. The same with the gunner, who unfortunately does look like he's either about to do some sort of strange dance, or he is desperate for the Elsan, which I'm not entirely sure if the Italians had a equivalent to the famous RAF flying toilets. But anyway, so what I've had to do here is the piece came completely molded over there, so I've put a couple of drill holes through 1.2 mil drill holes, and then sort of squared off the hole, rounded off the arms a bit as well. And then down here, I've sort of essentially just used the back of the knife and scraped out this bit here to sort of show that there are actually two legs. Now, a lot more of this modelling we can do with paint by clever sort of highlights and lowlights and whatever. But essentially, the basis is there, and they all come with the guys wearing their aviator glasses and wearing their oxygen masks, so there's not a lot of facial expression to deal with. So just got to clear this chap up the same as this, and then I can start painting them. And so we can see if we paint them up now. We've done some shading, we've put some dark lines under the edges. They actually come up pretty well, considering what we started out with. So I'm very happy with them. I'm going to start assembling the cabin now, and I thought this was a fairly new thing, but it isn't. It's a really old thing. You can see on here, this actually says P and S. That's a port and starboard. So left and right when you're looking forward. So the piece sits on that way round. I thought they'd only done it fairly recently, started marking things with port and starboard, but they hadn't. They did it a long, long time ago, so well done them. There's three pieces of woodwork, I guess it is. Three sort of partitions to put on. Two partitions and the instrument panel, in fact. But anyway, just to put all that together, and there's two chairs to go in as well. But we do have to do quite a lot of dry fitting because these are old pieces. They are slightly full of flash, and we just want to make sure they're going to sit in before we put any glue in. In the old days, of course, when I was a kid, what we do is you slather on some glue and shove, and eventually the plastic would melt enough that it would go in, but it's not really the best way to make models, apparently. So we fit it first now, and we put some extra thin on, and that will settle nicely. Excellent. Okay, I'll put the seats on next, and then I'll let it all set and spray it interior grey. Then the pilots can go in on their seats. The rear gunner can go in his position here. Then all we need to do is put in the control columns, and the cockpit area is complete. And before you ask, yes, I had forgotten to put the big instrument decal on, so I would strongly recommend doing that earlier than this point. And there we go. Do you know what? That actually hold on to onto the control wheel, which is nice. Some cool. So that's that. Now that can now go into the fuselage, but we've got a few other things to do first. There are quite some of these little bits of glass that need to go in. They just sort of slot into place, and you can just use a little bit of ultra thin or extra thin to keep them there. Okay, so what we have to do is put this gun mounting in, because that's where our 50 caliber gun is going to go, that our rear gunner is using. I've put in the windows here, put in this blanking piece as it suggests. On the other side, I'm going to put in there's going to be an open window, but I've put in a platform there for another gun. The tail was gone in, but I've just put it in loosely. It's not glued in or anything, so I want to be able to move it around later when I paint it. And then all of this can go in. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a tiny little light down here that needs to go in as well. Put it in as much as you can, but you'll be able to reach it through the front engine to press it down into place. And then, hopefully, the other half of the fuselage just sort of clips into place without the tail wheel falling off. There we go. So, and there we go. That's the two halves together. going to tape these up, run some glue around, and let's get on with it after that. Now there's this little sort of gondola-like thing that goes underneath the aircraft fuselage, and it has a window that needs to fit in first, and then it can sit in place. There's a little tab at the end for it, like so. It sits in place like that. Next, there are these two pieces. This is 32 and 33. Now, in the instructions here, it's an optional part. That's optional. I don't know why they've done that. That should be that question mark should be there, so you can use that or that, and they go in there. See, if this goes in, there's nothing to glue this to because it's already gone, and also your rear gunner can't fire his guns. So I'm going to put in this one, then I can have the rear gunner will still be able to fire. There he is in all his glory. Be able to still fire, but you know, the fit on this pieces are a bit sloppy, but never mind, it is what it is. And this piece should have actually gone in earlier. I don't know that I can force it through there, so I might just have to nip a couple of bits off there so I can slot that in place. My bad. Before these two go together, you put the wheels on and you put that in place. You can see it sits in there in case you want to turn the rudder. I never want to turn the rudder, so I won't worry about it. There you go, fits on. No one's the wiser. We'll just keep that between ourselves, shall we? And the door goes on. Now, I suppose if you're really clever, what you could do is just do a whole internal cabin properly, and it would look amazing, and have the door open. I'm not clever, so I'm having the door closed. You can't see what goes on in there. Thank you very much. Nothing to see here. Right, so whilst the fuselage is finishing, well, the fillers are setting and stuff like that, I thought I'd get on to the wings. Now, the wings go together in two halves. The undercarriage, I was thinking maybe like waiting for it to dry and then when I do all the paint on it, get it all done, then sort of hook the undercarriage in. But then that's not going to be a great, you've got to make sure that's going to sit really well, and then you've got to make sure it sits with the actuator arm, sort of bracing arm here. Doesn't seem like a great idea, but what I thought is, it does swing around a bit. The way that they're secured is with these little cap pieces. So I thought, well, if I can put the cap on there, but still have the arm moving, it's going to be in the right place for later. But I can then sort of just tuck it up and out the way, put some, some paper or whatever, some foam over there to block it, and then I can do the underside. But then when I'm ready, I just pull the wheel down, the leg down, put the bracing leg in, and that's it. Happy days. So that's what I'm going to do. Then when we've done that, we can put the wings together. The fit of the wings actually is really, really good. So that's quite an encouraging thing. And this time, before we glue anything together, we're going to remember to put in the ailerons on each side. Again, you can have these so they're them flapping around. You can have them fixed anywhere. I'm just going to have them in a neutral position. Then when everything is all set on the fuselage and the wings are set up, you can put them onto the aircraft. Now, they are not going to fit brilliantly, but they're going to be close. And it's not. Do you know what? I've had modern kits that have needed more filling than this. While the wings are settling down, we can put the tailplane and elevators together. So there's two pieces to the tailplane. The elevator clips in Again, you can glue it so it moves, but I'm going to glue it so it's absolutely solid. Right, so I'm going to make the engines now. Now, what the instruction says is this piece here, which fits in the back of the rear bank of cylinders. And what happens is the propeller goes through these two banks of cylinders. Let's get these round. Okay, like that. So the propeller would go through the banks of cylinders and connect to this. And then this is what you glue the prop to. Then the propeller can turn. As you know, I'm not bothered about stuff like that, but I do need that in because I'm going to glue these together, paint them, put them into the nacelles, mount the nacelles, and then after I've painted the whole aircraft, then I'll put the props in. So these need to be in now, and they'll stay in just as they're not even a stop, it's just a guide. So it connects with the hole at the front and the hole at the back to hold the prop in place. I'm just going to put the engine into the nacelle now. You can see here there's this thing with two pegs and a peg in the middle. Right, one cylinder sits on top of that, and these two pegs here stop it wobbling around. So one cylinder sits on that. Then there's two others at the bottom. Cylinders sit on that and that to keep it in place. But the important one to get right first of all is this one at the top between these two. If that goes in, then the other cylinders sit on that, and the whole engine's going to be level. So let's give it a go. Here we go. So try and get one cylinder in that slot, and then the other two sit in place. That's the theory. It sits like this. Just do that for the other three. Okay, we also need a mounting ring that goes on here. You can see there's a lug on each side and a gap on each side of the ring that goes in. Now the important thing is the top of this ring here, that lines up with the aircraft, and that's the top of the engine. So this part, which is the exhaust, has to be in the bottom half. Okay, so make sure that if that's in the top half, then this part's in the bottom half. Don't do it the other way around, otherwise the engine would be that way up with the exhaust coming out over the top. It doesn't, it comes out under the bottom. So make sure it's that way round. The tailplanes go in. There's a hole for the elevator, because remember you can have this moving up and down, and then a slot for the tailplane itself to go into. The trick with these is to get the tailplane into the slot at the front first and then push it in, because this part of the front sits quite a way into the fuselage, and that gives it a really good bond and a really good joint like that. Now there are bracing poles here that come with the kit, but we'll worry about those later on. Now when you line these up, the engine pods up with the mounting tags here facing upwards, you'll see that two are ejecting through the port side, one through the starboard side. So that's a starboard engine, middle engine, port engine. These two vent outwards, and the middle one vents towards the port side. So they are pretty much ready to go. What we need to do now is just refine some filling on these parts here, mask off the canopy, obviously, block off this vast open space here where the gun goes, mask off the side windows and the window on the underside pod, block off these engines here, and then we can spray it, prime it, and start the paint job. While we're waiting for the paint to dry on the fuselage, you can get on with some other things. Maybe make the wheels. These come in two halves, each one. Nice to see some things just basically never change. Likewise, the torpedoes, they come in two halves. These are more of a challenging fit, so there's going to be a little bit of work to get them looking right. When you've finished the spray job and you've put another coat of varnish on top, you can start putting on the decals. These are really nice, big, chunky cartograph decals. This one's on the wing. They are handed, so the these little hook things here, bill hook type things at the end there, they sit towards the outside of the aircraft. Okay. Just need to get this on there. So there's the edge of the aileron here, then there's two ribs, and then there's the edge of the decal. On the other end of the decal, there's a rib line here, and just need to clear the aileron here and touch that rib line, and it's pretty much aligned, and then straighten it out. Like that, and that's pretty good. Just work your way around the plane. There aren't that many decals on this, fortunately, so it won't take long. I'm going to just finish off with the last few parts now. Firstly, the bracing bars for the tailplane. Handily F for front, R for rear. You can see the rear ones are very slightly longer than the front one. I've already cut one off the front here. So front and rear. Just put those on. We can recover this moving part from the undercarriage now. Now, if you're going to do this, right, if you're going to put this part in first like this and then have it moving later, just give yourself a little reminder where it is, because I promise you, half an hour yesterday clearing up my desk, convinced, scrabbling around on the floor, convinced I had lost these parts, having forgotten that I put them into the aircraft, then put some foam over them to keep it all nice and clean while I was spraying. So I'd forgotten I'd put the part. I even know, I thought to myself, I know I've got the parts because I've painted them. I remember painting them, but I can't find them. They were on the model already. So please, don't avoid a senior moment if you can, and remind yourself they're already there. Right, so there's a couple of holes at the back here that the actuators slip into. I say slip. There we go. There we go. And once they're in, they can touch up against. I'll need to see whether it sort of sits underneath this mounting pin here, or point, or whether it actually touches it, the face of it. Whatever it is, got to do the same for both sides, you see, so I might as well know which one it is. In the old days, I suspect it actually would have been touching the face like that, but it would actually be stronger if it was set underneath like that. I'll find out. Well, the instructions are entirely unclear, so I'm going to put them underneath, just underneath these shackles, just because it gives a bigger area for the cement to attach, rather than just like the ends. If you want to put them on the blocks, the actuators directly onto those block ends, I would suggest maybe just sanding them flat, because the end of the actuator rods are slightly rounded. So sand them flat if you want them to go on there. I just think this way, whether it's right or not, I don't know, but you can't tell from the pictures anyway. And I think it just gives it a bit more security and strength. There are also these huge mass balancers to go into the ailerons, one on each side. Going to do the exhaust pipes as well. There are 3 of them. I just wanted to show you this. It gives you some idea of what the worst of flash is. I mean, all this stuff here is flash. The feed goes to this, and this exhaust pipe is supposed to look like these 2. But it will clean up. It will be able to get all this off, and we'll paint them burnt iron, I think, and then put them on the plane. And I know that in service they normally would only carry 1 torpedo, but they were designed to carry 2. So I'm going to just pretend this is for an inspection visit by the Admiral. Load them up with 2 torpedoes because that's what they're going to look like. The fact they never flew like that may or may not be the case, but I don't. I can only trust my wonderful viewers to tell me these things. So apparently they only ever flew with 1 torpedo. But I'm putting them on because I'm saying, right, for inspections, they would make it look like it should, according to the book, look, even though in practice it was impossible to fly with 1 torpedo, 2 torpedoes, sorry, over a long distance. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. And we can fit the propellers, all 3 of them. Now, I've seen pictures of SM.79s on parade, as it were, and all of the propellers were exactly aligned, not only on each aircraft, but across a whole squadron or a whole group. All of them will be pointing the same way. So that's what they're going to do on my plane. The wheels go in as well. Just need to be very, very delicate with these because we don't want them to break. Because it is old plastic, but they do turn. Very good. They're not flat spotted, so you can glue them in or you can leave them plain, whichever you like. I can put the gear doors in as well. There's a nice ledge for them to sit on, which is fantastic. So, with everything pretty much done now, we'll give it one final coat of matte varnish. Then we'll take the window masks off and put in the 2 guns, defensive guns. And that will be that. So there we have it. The AIRFIX 1/72 scale SM.79 Savoia, a vintage classic. And do you know what? Not a bad kit at all. Went together really quite well. Not by modern standards, obviously, but by the standards of the late 60s, which is when this was made, I think it went together extremely well. And most of the parts actually still fit. There's very little warpage anywhere or anything like that. The only problems really were flash, but then those are just signs of very overused molds. And of course, the packaging left a bit to be desired because they packaged things in different ways in those days. However, all of that aside, I think it goes together to make a very, very smart kit of a very interesting aeroplane, and I'm really happy I built it. Do you know what? The molds of this thing are 5 years younger than me, and I think they're holding up slightly better than I am. It's a lovely kit. I really enjoyed making it. I honestly really enjoyed making it. It makes me happy that I've got other vintage classics on order, like the Fairy Rotodyne for later this year. Maybe I'll make 1 or 2 more. But it was a beautiful thing to put together. There are issues, of course there are issues. Molding technology has changed completely. Design technology has changed completely. In those days, I suspect they had big wooden molds, big wooden models that they made and then used pantographs to scale that down to make the molds. So of course there are going to be some issues. And the molds have been around a long time. The plastic's different. But you know what? It went together a lot better than I remember a lot of AIRFIX kits back from the old days. So just a bit of skill and patience. Basically, just patience. You don't really need that much skill. And you'll get a lovely result. The only difficult thing, really, was the paint job. And with an airbrush and a bit of practice, again, it's really not that tricky. I'm happy enough with the result. It could be better, but I'm happy enough with it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the show, and I hope you have, please remember, Imperial thumbs up on that like button below. And if you haven't done so yet, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll be notified of all my future videos as they are released. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care now. Goodbye.